and overlook mean opposite things. See, look. Welcome to you, I'm Robert. I decided that it was time to do another top 10 video. So today we are talking about the top 10 worst distortion pedals ever. Ever. Seriously, these suck. Here's the ground rules. Number one, if you clicked on this video hoping that the Metal Zone was going to be mentioned, the Metal Zone rules, and you are going to be very, very disappointed. The Metal Zone's not on this list. Number two, if your favorite distortion pedal is on this list and you get upset about it, I don't care. It does not mean I don't know how to use it. It means I think it sounds like shit. And number three, there are actually no fuzz pedals on this list, as that would be a long list on its own, you know, for a guy that hates fuzz pedals. So, yes, even the Fuzz Factory is not on this list. This is strictly distortion pedals. Distortion pedals only, no overdrives, no fuzz pedals, none of that. Strictly the worst, the top 10 worst distortion pedals ever in no particular order. Let's get to it. Number one, Yamaha MDD 20M multi-band distortion. If you follow my channel for a while, you know that this one was, in fact, my very, very first distortion pedal that I bought back in about 1987, 1988, something like that. I've demoed it a couple of times on this channel, even as recently as, as of this recording, you guys just saw the video earlier this week. Now, while I admit the video that you guys recently saw, for some reason, that pedal surprisingly sounded a lot better than it ever has in the 30-some-odd years that I've owned it. But I'm chalking it up to a fluke, because every other time I plugged it in prior to that, it has sounded like complete garbage. And it's disappointing to me because Yamaha are one of my very, very favorite brands. I love just about everything that Yamaha has ever put out. They don't miss very often. But they missed in the mid-80s with the multi-band distortion. This pedal sucks. Number two, the Boss HM2 Heavy Metal Distortion. Now, I admit, I actually love the HM2, but the only reason I love it is because it's a Boss pedal. In and of itself, let's face it, this pedal sounds like shit. The best way that I can describe this pedal, the way that it sounds, is if you were to take a can of rusty nails and throw them into a running garbage disposal. That's pretty accurate.
Well, the Swedish death metal bands, they turn all the knobs all the way up, and that's the Swedish buzzsaws.
Yeah, you're right. It is, and that's that's the pedal that made the Swedish death metal sound, buzzsaw tone, whatever you want to call it. Let's be realistic. Swedish death metal bands, black metal bands, the bands that the guitar players that like this pedal, they intentionally seek out the distortion sounds that sound like shit. That's what they do. That's part of their style. They don't go after them because it sounds great. This thing, HM2 sounds terrible. You're crazy if you think otherwise. Number three, Electro-Harmonix Metal Muff. Electro-Harmonix have restored my faith in their brand and in their products over the last few years with pedals such as the Flatiron Fuzz. That thing is seriously kick-ass. The Soul Food Overdrive, among others. Electro-Harmonix make great, great, great pedals. The Metal Muff is not one of them. Not only does it sound like the proverbial can of bees that we all referred to in this business when it comes to shitty guitar tone, but this thing's got it's got this boost mode on it that is like the proverbial can of bees, along with like a 6-foot ice pick, going straight into your ear and somebody driving into your ear with a sledgehammer. It's how anybody thought that was a pleasing sound. I have no idea. Now, there is a new version of the Metal Muff that I have not tried yet. I believe it's the newest version, the Nano Muff. There's a lot of different versions they put out here over the years, but the newest one, I believe, is the Nano. I think the Nano Muff that actually has a noise gate on it, and I think maybe has ditched the boost mode. So I'm going to try that out and probably demo it here on my channel here in the near future. But, as far as the big one goes, God, Mike, what were you guys thinking? Number 4, Line 6 Uber Metal. This is another pedal that I was reluctant to put on this list because all of the Line 6 Tone Core series from the early 2000s were all designed by the legendary George Trips, the same man who is the genius behind all of the Way Huge pedals. There are several other pedals out of the Tone Core series that I really, really like, but the problem with the Uber Metal is with the mid control turned all the way up, and the mid scoop control turned all the way down. You've got the mids all the way up, and there's still no mid-range in it. None whatsoever. All 3 modes. No mid-range anywhere in it, period, end. If you need mid-range, you have to couple it with an EQ pedal, which is actually pretty popular to do with those when they came out. But if you want mid-range out of that pedal, you got to get it some other way because it ain't going to be out of that pedal at all. On its own, it's one of those things. It's kind of fun to mess around with it. If you're a metal player, it's kind of fun to mess around with while you're practicing at home. But in the context of a mix or playing with a band or anything, you get lost immediately. On its own, it's completely unusable. Number 5, the Digitech PDS 1550 Programmable Distortion. I remember paying $60 for one of these from a kid at school when I was about 14 years old. And that was way too much money for that pedal then. This was a 2-channel programmable distortion, though how it was programmable, that I have no idea. It was basically just a 2-channel distortion pedal with 6 knobs or something on the top of it. And it sounded terrible. I don't care what amp you ran it into. It sounds terrible. I'd plug it in for you and show you right now, but honestly, it's been sitting so long because I can't stand the sound of it that one of the wires shorted out. But trust me, this thing sounds. Imagine if you took like a big pillowcase and filled it up with cats, and then you took that pillowcase and started swinging it up against a brick wall or somewhere. That's what that pedal sounds like. Number 6, the Zvex Distortron. Now, if you follow my channel for a while, you're probably already aware that I am not in Zvex's good graces after my now legendary Fuzz Factory video. An entire video that was meant as a joke and has probably sold more Fuzz Factories than any other video on YouTube, by the way. Regardless, Zachary Vex doesn't seem to like me much over that, and I get that his pedals are designed specifically to be weird for that weirdo crowd out there, and they may like it. That's okay, but the Distortron doesn't sound much like like a futuristic style distortion like I thought it would. Honestly, it kind of sounded to me like a cheap solid state amp distortion turned face down on the floor. Number 7, Mad Professor Golden Cello. This is a combo distortion and delay pedal, both at the same time. The Golden Cello, when you're playing single notes with it, sounds pretty good, so it's not a bad tool for soloing. It's kind of an interesting effect. The minute you strike a full chord with it, though, good God! Who in their right mind thought that was a good idea? Have you heard one of these? They should have, seriously, they should have called this pedal the Golden Shower, because that's what it sounds like, somebody pissing all over a great guitar tone. Number 8, BBE AM64 American Metal Distortion. This one was a Guitar Center exclusive pedal about 10 years or so ago, and the idea behind it was supposed to emulate the the metal scene of the early 90s. The problem is if it didn't sound anything like the metal scene of the early 90s or the metal scene of any era that anybody would possibly want to sound like. Not only that, but if you turn the gain up all the way, all of a sudden it turned into a fuzz that nobody was expecting and nobody wanted. Especially the crowd that were going for the the 90s heavy, early 90s heavy metal sound, which was the tail end of the the hair metal era, if you will. How does this thing sound? You ever heard the sound of 2 galvanized aluminum trash cans having intercourse? That's pretty accurate. And number 9, Digitech Eric Clapton Crossroads distortion pedal. All right, now look, Digitech are another one of those companies that I had lost faith in for a long time, but restored my faith here in the last few years with some of their more recent, some of the more recent things that they have put out. And also, let me be clear that I like Eric Clapton as much as the next guy. I think he's one of the greatest guitar players that has ever walked this planet. However, the Clapton Crossroads Distortion pedal was a huge, huge miss. Not only did, there was very, very little difference between any of the different modes that were on there. I think there were 6 different modes. It was very, very little difference in tone from one mode to the next, but not a one of them sounded even remotely like Eric Clapton in any era. None of it. Not only did none of them sound like Eric Clapton, none of them sounded very good for anything else either. Like not even remotely. Number 10, the MXR Fullbore Metal Distortion. Again, I love MXR. I love MXR pedals. I love Dunlop pedals. Another one of my favorite companies. What in the world were you guys thinking when you put out the Fullbore metal? Man, the Line 6 Uber metal, as far the mid range on the Line 6 Uber metal sounds like a Marshall Plexi compared to this thing. The Fullbore metal is how anybody could ever find one even remotely usable tone out of that thing is beyond me. Seriously, the mid range on this pedal is like negative mid range, whatever that would be. It's not even fun to jam around with at home in your bedroom just practicing by yourself with this pedal because there's no mid-range, you can't hear it. The only frequencies that are in it are undiscernible. Oh, you got to give this thing a try. Plug it into the effects loop in the back of the amp. Try that. No, why would I want to? So there you are. There is my list of the top 10 worst distortion pedals ever. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know which ones you think I may have left out. So please, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. Please also don't forget to hit the like button. Links down in the description. Leave a comment down below, etc., etc., etc. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.